Hi, my name is Kat Kerr, and today we're going to be making 5 journal background pages using non-conventional art supplies. Now today we're going to be using an assortment of Deco Art acrylic paint as well as everything but the kitchen sink to make these backgrounds. Now let's go ahead and get started. Now for my first page, I added the background using Deco Art's Media Fluid and a credit card. I then took a silicone pot holder, added some black acrylic paint using a foam brush, and then pressed it onto the page, creating this wonderful texture. For my next background, I took a roll of washi tape. I just simply dipped it into some acrylic paint and created a pattern onto the page. Next, I took a Cosmetic eyeshadow brush and just added some acrylic paint to the center of the circles. I finished off the page by using a pencil and dipping it into some white media fluid and placing some dots in between all of the circles. For my next background, I'm using an acrylic ruler, and I just placed some color onto the page and I'm spreading it almost like a squeegee, and I'm really just kind of sliding it across the page. But once I started doing that, I wanted to add some more texture, so I started scraping the ruler onto the paint. Once that layer was dry, I took a plastic fork, dipped it into some white media fluid, and created some additional texture. Next, I created my own texture by using a piece of lace. I used some double tack dry adhesive and I added it to a wooden dowel. Then I just dipped it into some acrylic paint and rolled it across the page. Now this is one of my favorite tools when it comes to art journaling. It's actually a cake fondant roller, and if you add paint to it, it creates these little stitches. So I just rolled some paint on it and then rolled the roller onto the page, creating these faux stitches. Now for my final page, I'm taking some of that acrylic paint and I'm spreading it onto the page using a baby wipe. And I add some texture using this plastic, it's one of those mats that goes in the sink, and I cut it up into different pieces and I added some paint to it and then pressed the page onto it. I also added some splatters of black acrylic paint using a toothbrush. Now that my textured backgrounds are complete, here's one idea for creating a fun focal. Now I love using magazine images in my journal pages, but I recently started painting the faces, and I started doing this because I've always want to practice my lighting and my shading when it comes to faces. It's something that I struggle with, and so I end up using the image as a guide to where to add my paint, the darks and the lights. And so here I'm using this beautiful purple color and I'm adding the lighter areas where the image is light, and I'm adding the darker areas, darker paint where it's dark. And once it's all complete, you'll see that it looks like I actually painted the entire thing, but it's actually just me copying what's already there, but giving it my own spin and having fun and getting some practice. Now I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I especially hope that when you're done watching, you start taking a look around and figuring out what you can use next as textures in your journal pages.